PLD Projects presents Holy Snokes, the Star Wars podcast, featuring PLD and Matty Gunner. May the Force be with you, always. Hey, what's up? Welcome back to Holy Snokes, a Star Wars podcast. Welcome back to PLD Projects. I am your host, PLD, and with me, as always, the hairy one, the sidekick of sidekicks, Matty Gunner. How you doing, my friend?
Did you ever have a sidekick? The phone with the touchpad. Did you ever have one of those?
No, I never did. How were they?
I never had one. I had a BlackBerry, and it was a pain because it was one of the small ones with the little tracker ball on it.
Oh, I can't do those. Too fat fingers.
Okay, you want to know a funny story?
Yeah,
real funny story. So on BlackBerries, one way that you used to be able to post things to Facebook and Twitter was you could text a code off of a status. So like you would get a text that a status has been posted, and it would have a code to it and be like, reply to this to reply to the thing.
Right.
I made a fairly tasteless joke at a status post that I thought my girlfriend at the time posted.
Oh.
It went to her dad.
Ooh. How much longer were you dating this young lady?
Oh wow.
Okay.
Oh wow, because he pulled me to one side and he was just like, okay, that was pretty funny, because it wasn't anything like rude or anything. It was just like a fairly tasteless joke that would probably get me canceled now.
Gotcha.
But it went to her dad, and I was just kind of like, oh, you saw that, huh? It wasn't anything like sexual or anything. It was just fairly dark. Let's put it that way. It's pretty dark and tasteless joke. I promise you I'm a better human being since then. But it went to her dad's page, and I was just like, oh shit. But he pulled me to one side. He was like, yeah, that was pretty funny. And I was like, what are you talking about? And then I looked at I went on my laptop and I saw it, and I was just like, oh geez. So if anyone, basically my whole point of this is, anyone who ever tells you that nostalgia is a good thing,
depends what you're talking about.
It's bullshit. If anyone ever tells you, oh, I long for the days of the flip phone, no, they don't.
No, they don't. Gotcha.
I had a Motorola Razr, and those things were trash.
I had a flip phone very, very short amount of time, and they were just, I never liked them at all. I can't imagine going back now. I wouldn't want to go back now. It's just so ridiculous.
Did you ever have the Samsung Matrix phone, the one that like twisted?
I think I did briefly. I didn't like it. I got rid of it, and I went to something else. I have a litany of phones that I tried. None of them were very good. And they all, like, I used to hate, like, people don't remember nowadays when you had to text by, like, you'd have to like use the numbers, like ABC2. You have to like press it 2 to get a C, 2A, 2.
I was having this conversation with a friend the other day, and I promise we will talk about Star Wars in a minute.
Yes.
Do you remember when we had limits to our texts and limits to our minutes?
Yes, indeed.
But here's the thing. Do you remember when calls and text messages were free after 6 p.m.?
I do remember that as well. Yeah. So you wait till 6 and you go nuts at that point. But
dude, the feeling of just like waiting to talk, like saving up everything that you were talking to your friend and be like, okay, now going past 6 o'clock and be like, all right, now we can talk because it's past 6 o'clock. Like, your son will never have to worry about that ever.
Not at all. And I don't think he could. I don't think any of them could. I think any of this generation really could. My kids are very impatient nowadays. Not that I'm a bastion of patience, but man, when you're born into it, like it's even harder to go backwards along the trail, the train wise as it is. But so let's get into this week's show. Not gonna do a news this week. Nothing terribly newsworthy. I've bandied about talking about like the animation production designer being hired at Lucasfilm, but basically that means There's an animated project that works. Okay, we knew that already. So without the absence of news, we can just concentrate on this week's episode of The Acolyte. And unlike other times, we really have had zero discussion. I have not seen your opinion on this at all. I have not talked to you about this at all. So I'm very curious where this is going to go for us. I know I have some interesting takes, I think. Yeah, it's definitely this has actually been one of the most polarizing episodes I've seen. A lot of people really didn't like it, but then there's a lot of people who really did. And I feel like I'm both at once, but we'll get into it to a degree.
The only thing I posted about it was didn't see that one coming.
That's fair.
The show has done exactly what it has set out to do. This is a case of, how do I put this? I knew what I wanted. I just didn't expect my reaction to be this way when I got it.
Oh, okay. That's fair. That's fair. I will say the show has done what it's supposed to do macro-wise, like overall scheming thing. I think it struggles more with the micro, with kind of like how it gets there sometimes. But overall, I will say without going too far into it as we get into it, I think it was an episode that did what it had to do. Actually, that's it. This episode is exactly topical of the entire series for me. It did what it had to do, got most of the answers we needed. Are there things I would have changed? Are there things I probably would have maybe done away with? Are there things I would have maybe tweaked a little bit, maybe given another run over, as it were? But overall, I was very happy with it, and it felt there was times that this episode felt more Star Wars than any of the other previous episodes, I would say. I'm not saying they don't feel like Star Wars before, but this one really there's a depth to it as far as some of the lore went, some of the connectivity went, that really made it feel present.
I got some lore.
Oh, there's definitely some lore to talk about for sure. We're going to get into that. This is how we do things on this show. If you haven't been here before, like, subscribe, 5-star rating, all that jazz. Help us fight the almighty algorithm. It's worst of the empire some days. We want to get everybody in here and talking about this thing and Star Wars in general. Positive space. We try to be a positive space here, but truthful, positive but truthful. But what we do is we go through segments here on this show. We go through little segments that kind of point out some of the specific things, and then we break down the rest of the show towards the end, everything else, the bigger themes, the bigger picture stuff. Let's get the minutia out of the way first. The first segment we always do on this show is a little segment that we're kind of like locked into now. I probably should have retired it for at least this show, but I don't know. I couldn't dream of doing it.
You can't.
It is.
You can't.
It's Hondo Watch 2024.
Who wants to see Hondo's book? Talk to me.
Quite frankly, our patron of our show, our mascot, or whatever you want to call it, the patron saint, our spirit animal.
I think patron is a good one because he's more likely to be a patron at a bar than he is to be a saint. So
that's fair. That's actually very fair. My spirit animal, Hondo Onaka. Did Hondo Onaka make his long-awaited return visually? Last time we saw him was the end of Rebels. So technically we know he has his experiences in Galaxy's Edge and stuff way in the future in the books and stuff. But visually, last time a Rebels series finale, I should say, did we see him make his return this week on this week's episode of The Acolyte? The answer, my friend.
This effort is no longer profitable.
No, Hondo.
The day will come. The day will come.
But it is not this day, my friend.
It is not this day.
No Hondo, no John Doe, no Jane Doe. We are all out of does. We are doless, as it were.
So subscribe to the Patreon.
There you go. Patreon.com/PLD Projects. Nice touch there. All right. That's our little jokey. I mean, it's a real thing to us, but it's a jokey thing, especially for this show.
It's no joke.
I mean, we want to see him come back. Skeleton Crew, I'm looking at you. I'm going to be a little more. I'll be a little more mad at Skeleton Crew than I am at the Acolyte. The Acolyte has excuses that I can kind of go, I see, I get it, but no.
I mean, we see. We don't get it, but we see.
We understand. We're less.
No, we don't even understand. We just see. We just. Like, we see your point. We don't understand it.
We don't see Hondo, though. That's the problem.
We don't see Hondo, so we can't understand because we don't see Hondo.
All right. Let's move on then to our next segment this week called the Acolyte of the Week.
But an acolyte kills the dream.
This is our favorite character of the week. The favorite character we have. It could be anybody really in this show. Usually I have to specify because this is like the Bad Batch was always doesn't have to be a Batcher. Well, this could be anybody in the show, anytime, anywhere. I'll tell you one thing right away. It is not Torben. It is not Torben. I am safe saying that because I know you're not going to say him either.
Sucks.
That dude sucks butt, as far as I'm concerned. We'll get into that, I'm sure. I'm quite sure. My favorite Acolyte of the week. You know what? I'm going to let you go first. Go ahead, my friend.
Mine was one I was very shocked at picking because I watched it twice.
Okay.
Because I had quite an emotional reaction to the first time. Not an emotional reaction, but I went into it with like thinking with my heart as opposed to everything else. I'm giving it to Master Endara.
Very nice. Very nice. I can see why, but talk to me.
We have gone through this entire series thinking that Endara and Torben and Kalnaka are the ones that have something to hide, they're not proud of what they've done, and they aren't proud of what they've done. And we do get the later reveal that they do try to cover it up. Endara was the one who was like, leave them alone. We've interfered enough. Just let them be. Because we thought that they were on that planet for the sole purpose of finding the witches. No, they were just there collecting. And I looked this up. They were there on they were there on Brendok because they wanted to know how it grew back from the Great Disaster so quickly. For listeners who don't know what the Great Disaster is, the Great Disaster was a hyperspace event in the High Republic where a ship it came out of hyperspace like too quickly and it shot comets and spaceship parts all over the outer rim.
In hyperspace.
Yeah, pretty much. The ship exploded in hyperspace and it sent all manner of debris all over countless planets, countless worlds, just destroying them, rendering them lifeless for so many people. Like, it was a real catastrophic event.
If you want to know more, read Light of the Jedi. That's where it all began.
Read Light of the Jedi. It's where it begins, or go to the Wikipedia article, which tells you about Light of the Jedi, if you don't want to read. But they're on that planet because it grew back so quickly, and they wanted to know why.
Right.
I was under the impression that Endara had them there to investigate the witches. And we saw in episode 3 the perspective of Mother Anasea and the girls of, Endara, they're there just to steal the kids. They're there because they're untrustworthy. This is what I'm talking about with Rashomon, is now we're seeing the same situation from a different perspective. While I don't completely trust this perspective, is the same reason I don't completely trust the third one, because there's 4 sides to the truth. There's their side, the truth, and what actually happened. Because the truth is always going to be someone's perspective of what happened. So, seeing Endara in this light made me think like, well, maybe she wasn't as bad as I thought she was, because she does. There's a common theme without this, and I'll move on. Like, the common message that I took from this is of the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yes, absolutely.
And I feel like she was the one that was trying to pull them away from what they were doing. She was the one that was trying to do what was like morally actually right. And for the longest time, we thought it was Sol.
Yeah, I have to say, I will say this right away. I was wrong. I was very wrong. I really thought that I thought in my heart that Sol was going to be the one that Sol felt worse I felt he felt worse about it than he should have, and he was probably only did something like maybe he was the one who just covered it up, et cetera, et cetera. And turns out he was really at the crux of the whole thing, and that was a zig instead of a zag. And I'm actually very appreciative of Leslie doing that as a writer, a show writer, because it does exactly what she said. It does. You think it's going to go one way, and it didn't. It went another way.
Did you see what she said about the her style of mystery telling?
No, I did not.
She said she won't try to subvert you. She'll give you like essentially what you think it's going to be, but she will do it so vehemently and without any remorse that you're left there like, what the fuck?
It's fair. It's fair. I was just say we're talking about it. You always say use your 4 sides of the truth. I always have to stick to the 3 sides of the truth. I know why you say it. 3 sides of the truth for me because it's a great extreme album. Yours, mine, and the truth. So I'm always going to be that. Yours, mine, and the absolute truth. I'll call it though for you, so we can kind of be on the same page there. I agree with that aspect completely, and you're right. And Dara was always. And Dara, because we saw so little of her and she was in charge, we did all assume that she had a darker hand to play. We figured that they would kill her right away and she'd be deserving of it. Not deserving of it, really, no one's deserving of it, but we would understand why it went down the way it went down. And to see that really the only real quote unquote mistake she made was a little bit twofold. It was like, that she was involved in the cover up, but there was great understanding and reasoning behind that. And basically she just couldn't control her team. Really is what it came down to. She really couldn't control her team, and that's the upsetting part about it. Maybe is definitely more we could actually discover still from her. I feel like this is a great person, a great character to have a comic about, maybe, or maybe a book about her, because I like what I'm seeing from her in this episode specifically, and I would like to see more about Brendok and Sol. They actually have some good chemistry, even if it is back and forth and a little sometimes happy, sometimes not. But she's definitely an interesting character, and I really appreciate you picking her because I wanted to talk about her too. And she was a phenomenal choice, and this is why it got Carrie Ann Moss, because she delivered a heck of a performance in this role for what she was given. For my side of things, the one I picked, I'm gonna go with Kel Naka. I really enjoyed getting to see the Wookiee, even if it wasn't really the Wookiee in his private mind, seeing him go after Sol and Torben. Great action sequences. You think you know what it's like to see a Wookiee Jedi. You think in your head you could picture a Wookiee Jedi really going at it. You've seen some stuff in the books maybe, but seeing it visually, it's like, damn, that's almost like a horror scene right there. That's powerful stuff. That guy's a monster. I love it.
The Return of the Knack.
Yes. But I do love
Return of the Mac.
Exactly. I do love everything about him. Obviously, he has probably the least amount of blame. He basically just pretty much doing what he was told. He was trying to do everything he did. He just got taken over by the witch, by Coral. And that's just not really his fault. I mean, what could he do? It's not like he opened up to it. I mean, it seems like you could argue that he was a little weak-minded in order to be taken over, but I don't know how strong. The witches are pretty strong, so it's hard to say exactly. And Dara wouldn't, because Dara showed some great strength. But Hanaka didn't really. If anybody did anything, like, she was the least to blame of anything. He basically was just there doing his job. He listened to his team master, so to speak, the Dara. He went to get the job done, getting Torben and Sol back, and unfortunately, he was just there to be taken over and used and abused, as it were. Poor guy. That's what I have to say.
Yeah, I think Kel Naka's issue is more. I think his guilt comes more from. I believe I can't remember when it was set out really, but I believe it's a thing that Wookiees are like. It's a great disgrace for them to use their claws and on people or in combat. I think I can't remember what it is exactly. But there is some kind of law, I think, where if a Wookiee uses his claws on a lesser being,
right,
then it's considered against their code and disgraceful. So I think that maybe he took that to heart as well a little bit. I don't know. I hope we're getting the Kel Naka comic, right? So
yes,
I imagine we're going to get some kind of answer. Who knows? Maybe they'll do an Endara run as well, like you mentioned. Once we get the Kel Naka one. My question is, and it's not my explore more lore, so I can sneak this in, if you will. How the hell did Torben become a master? Because that dude is fucking useless.
We're gonna. I think we should save that for the mission briefing. So I have stuff to say about Torben for sure. We'll save that for later. I will say it's interesting you bring up the clause thing. I do vaguely remember that. I'm an older man now. I have read all the EU. I knew all the EU at one point. I have forgotten a lot of the EU, even though I'm reading it. I've probably forgotten some of the stuff. That does sound familiar, and that would make things well. I will say one of my issues with the show, and I'll probably get back into this a little more later on. I can kind of just drop this and then talk about it more later on, is that when it comes, like I said, macro and micro, this show does leave a lot for the viewer to kind of fill in on their own. I don't think I need a lot of specificity in the answers, but I think I need a little bit more specificity at times. There are things that are a little vague that I'm kind of like, okay, this makes sense if I think about it this way. And I know that might be actually a storytelling like trope that she's using, and that's the way it is. That's the way it is. It's not particularly my kind of trope. I think there's some viewers who like everything spelled out. There's some viewers who like everything completely vague so they can fill it in. I kind of found this a little bit more on the vague side than I would personally enjoy. Not that I didn't enjoy the episode, but I would have preferred a little bit more specific in some areas. But I think we'll get into that again more during mission briefing, for sure.
So I have what it's from in front of me. It's from Heir of the Empire, and it was a matter of honor. The Wookiees never used their claws in combat, so I did get that part right, and kept them strictly for climbing. Wookiees who used their claws in combat were exiled and labeled as Mad Claws. So perhaps Kelnaka didn't take the vow, but was sent into exile.
Perhaps. I mean, that would make sense. And you know what? Like, again, I will contradict myself a little bit. I'm going to be a little bit hypocritical. I do like when she's been pulling stuff, cherry picking some kind of cool stuff from the EU. And it's something that it's known in that universe, even if it's not known in our universe, it is cool. I just feel like maybe, how can I say this? I mean, I will say, like some people complain about that before. People complain about cortosis, and we got the explanation next episode. You know what I mean? So like, it's like I should wait until the end of the series and see what happens. I have a feeling though that's not going to be answered because we have so little time left. We only have 45 minutes left. I think if that's the case, it's going to be another 45-minute episode to wrap a whole lot up at this point. And I think there's more that is going to be left not open but a little unanswered. Again, we'll talk about this more when the mission briefing comes at this point, but we'll get there. So let's move on to our segments. Let's go with the rest of these segments first. The next segment we have is favorite line of dialogue of the week. I'll start with this one. This was an easy one because it kind of gave me shivers a little bit, and I am a sap for connectivity, like I said. Quote, someday those noble intentions of yours will destroy every Jedi in the galaxy. Like, I just could feel Anakin's dark deeds playing in the background. And it wasn't, I almost wish they had quoted that. That would have been a great time for a little bit of a motif quote there. But I stood up and went, oh, that's cool. That's true. That's dark. I like that. I loved all of Anastaea's dialogue, to be completely honest. It was so good.
I have one, so be careful what one you mention.
I'm not mentioning anymore. I'm just saying that I love her performance throughout. I loved her performance and the way she was delivering the lines given to her. She was very, very, very close to being my acolyte of the week, to be honest. I liked a lot of things. So I don't want to spoil anything else, so go ahead with yours, buddy.
Mine is another Mother Anastasia line, and it's when they're convening. The Council of Witches is convening, and one of them says, "Yes, you are their mother, but you're also our leader." And she just turns to them and says, "I choose mother." And I was just like, the way she said it, just so like adamantly and like so like clear cut, like that was her decision.
Yeah.
She was like, whatever this plan is, whatever this ceremony, the ascension, I don't care. I just want my daughter to be happy. And it was the way she said it, so like almost like a command.
Right.
I was just like, oh shit. And then obviously we saw what happened after that.
Well, it kind of felt like she was saying, like, I am in charge and I'm making the decisions as a mother. come at me, yo.
Yeah.
Kind of like this way.
And also speaks to the mother-daughter connection that we have not had a lot of in Star Wars. Yeah. Like we have a lot of father and son. When was the last time we had like a really deep mother-daughter connection? I mean, you could pull Hera Sabine a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, you could, I guess, a little bit. I mean, we did have Sabine and her mom even brief. Like Sabine, like a real mom, kind of had that brief.
Even then, that was like really tumultuous and they were at each other's throats. But this is like a really like caring mother relationship, and it was like, wow. I would go as far as say since Shmi, since we had it, because Hera, you could also say was like an older sister. So I would say since Shmi, really, this is the last time we got it.
Probably. Deleted scenes of episode 2 with Padme and her mom.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
But no, you're not wrong. Absolutely. I mean, we never got to see Leia as anybody's mom. I mean, we got Leia with Ben, but that was not what you're talking about at all. Nothing in the original trilogy really, because it was always Luke and but no, I mean, Aunt Beru was there, but that was never anything. You're right.
The Leia Ben one, they never filmed that. I get that there was circumstances why it couldn't have been filmed,
right?
But like
they were never,
yeah, you know what I mean. Never got that moment.
Yeah, that's. I mean, they definitely. It's hard to challenge things if they had to do it. They have planned to do it in the third, I'm sure, at some point. But unfortunately, Carrie Fisher's passing definitely, for many reasons, is horrible. For many reasons, is awful. That's a minor one compared to everything else, but it is something that is unfortunate that happened for sure. All right, let's move on to our next topic, next segment du jour. We have this one, put that in your holocron and snoke it, or explore more lore.
Do you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise?
Yes, I have. Matty, what is your explore more lore?
I am 70 to 80% sure that this cult is the Ascendants.
Oh, talk to me.
From Dr. Aphra.
Okay.
The Ascendants are...
That's my mind, to be honest with you.
The Ascendants are, for those who don't know, they are a cult of dark side force users who have a knack for mixing the dark side with different technologies, which also could play into how the twins were created. I want to shout out seasonal co-host of the Big Blue Box, Kiwi Jasper. She brought up how there's like essentially test tube babies were the way that the twins were created. And obviously we could talk about more in mission briefing, but I was starting to think that, and then I was like, wait, dark side tech, not the clone, but cloning, could it be the Ascendants?
That is something I didn't even think about, I'll be honest with you. I read Dr. Aphra. As many of you know, I kind of fell off the comics only because I'm doing a read through. I decided to read it all in order. When I get there kind of thing.
And the ceremony is called the Ascension, right? So it's kind of like it just like 2 + 2 makes 4 in my head.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. I get that, and it makes sense. I would love to see that again, though. I don't know if we'll get the. Again, this is what I mean about the storytelling.
We probably won't get the name, but
we won't get the name. Will we have it? Will somebody come out and say it is? And should the show say it? Where is that line of specificity? I don't know. Like sometimes I it's different for every show, but I feel like I know they're trying to not confuse people. I think that's part of it. You don't want to confuse the casuals. Or like, who are these guys, or whatever. But at the same time, I feel like you can do that without confusing them by just kind of like giving a brief overview, and then the ones who read it were like, oh, that's these guys, and we'll get it and get more from it. But the fact,
can I tell you why I don't want it in this show?
Okay.
This could if it is them, could potentially leave the door wide open for an Afro show, be it animated or live action.
I think that is a great idea for a show. I do think I've been thinking that ever since the comic. I think an animated show would work well. Well, I do live action. Do live action. I almost feel like it'd be better to do it animated. I feel like that because I feel like that character led to this grandiose kind of thing that you can do much more of that animation than you can do in live action, especially when it comes to 8 episodes versus like maybe 10 or 12 or 15 as Bad Batch would gotten kind of thing. But I would love to see that brought forward. That's a great idea. I do like that quite a bit. So you want to see more from the Ascendants? You want to see a Dr. Afro show? I'm here with you. I'm going to go for that as well. Mark me down as a +1 on that. All right, let me speak about my Explore More lore. For me, it's Verdances. I want to explore more about like. It's funny, that was kind of a throwaway line in episode 1 in the Phantom Menace. Well, Qui-Gon goes, "I've discovered a Verdance about the Force." And I go, "Oh, this boy." And it was about Anakin. And like, I kind of always glossed over the line myself. I was like, okay, that's part of the prophecy, I guess.
I thought he was saying virgins at first. I was like, oh, you discovered virgins in the Force? I thought all Jedi were virgins. And then we found out later on that they're not.
That's not true. So I love the fact that Leslie picked up on this one, like I said, almost a throwaway line. It's kind of like one of those, well, it sounds cool, it sounds smart, but like we don't really need to discuss it or get into detail in it because we didn't for Anakin at this point. Just part of the prophecy. Okay, that's part of the prophecy. Fine, that's good. And then we learned that because of the hyperspace disaster kills off Brendok, this world is all of a sudden coming back to life despite being a lifeless planet, as it was described at. And the theory behind it is that there's a vergence and the Force on the planet that's letting them bring life back. So here we are, like, going to explore that. And then it gets even further. It's like the witches are here. Perhaps they are using, like, I know, like, in a lot of wizard stories, we're talking about witches, but wizards, there's, like, things called ley lines of planets where, like, magic is more powerful in certain areas. Kind of like the Dark Side Cave on Dagobah, that kind of thing. I don't think the Verdance necessarily has to be dark side, but a Verdance is like that in terms of there's a powerful aura or use of power here. There's something it makes it more dense, like a thick, soupy fog kind of thing compared to real life, or compared to other places, I should say. So the fact that the witches are here, and it's kind of implied, and this is where I'm okay with the vagueness, it's kind of implied that perhaps because of the Verdance, that's where the reason they were able to create the twins artificially. Because of the Verdance, and because of the Verdance, this thing became even more powerful. And I want to explore the idea, and this might get explored, it might not. Again, I don't know how far we're going to go into it. They're really pushing this, like, instead of just being twins, that they're like one. Like, I thought that was just kind of a twin saying of each other, born of two, one, whatever the power is. I always kind of think, okay, whatever. I didn't think it was going to mean anything. But now we have that idea where they have the blood samples, whatever, and I forget what the word that he used. Symbionts, I think. Was it symbionts?
Symbionts.
The symbionts were exactly the same, which never happens even in twins. So basically, it was almost like implying that they are one person, literally one person split into two, which is a very interesting concept, especially involving the Force. I can't help think that the Verdance is involved somehow. And I want to know more about these Verdances. I guess these happen. Like, I always thought the Verdance was when Qui-Gon said it, it was almost implied that, or I assumed that the Verdance was only for the Chosen One.
Yeah.
Never even opened my mind to consider there was a bunch of different Verdances before. It had to do with this kind of thing. What else?
The Dagobah Cave, the cave on Octo.
Absolutely. Wrapping these things together, there's other Verdances which have put things into play that maybe this weren't Chosen One. Maybe the Chosen One was from a Verdance, but that doesn't mean he's the only thing from a Verdance. So that blew my mind. I was thinking about it. I was like, wow, I really started thinking deep into it. I want to know more about the Verdances. How does that happen? What else has happened out there because of Verdance? Are there other powerful forces out there that we haven't discovered yet because they were from like a Verdance of the Force or whatever? It's very fascinating to me. And even though I call for more specificity, I like the idea of living a little bit vague because it was always much more vague before. And you get a little bit detailed here and it leads open to possible storytelling all over the place.
So I looked up what Vergence actually means. A Vergence is the point of where a fold overturns itself. So basically where you get to that point in the fold and then it overturns. I'm wondering if it's kind of like the Force turning in on itself. And like not like a loop, but kind of the Force folding in on itself and creating something new.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I also agree, because I always thought, what the hell is a Virgins? Like, what is that? I too thought it was like, oh, Anakin is the Virgins, like he's the special one. But it could also just be the word the Jedi use for a phenomena that they don't understand, right?
Yeah,
like how many things do we don't truly understand air,
right?
We just call it air.
Yeah, right. That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's something I definitely want to get more of. I think it, like I said, I think it opens up the possibility for a lot of different stories that can be told, almost countless stories. And perhaps I would love, you know, I'd love to see it in, if we're talking connectivity.
Afro.
No, well, yes, maybe that'd be kind of cool too. But connectivity-wise, Connectivity-wise, I want, and again, the movies don't always connect like this, but give me that in James Mangold's film. Explore it in the Dawn of the Jedi. Maybe that's what created the Jedi in the first place, kind of thing, right? Yeah. Like, if we're gonna do it, let's do it up. Let's make it a part of the story there. Let's connect the whole.
Someone finds a Virgins,
right? That's what sparked the first Jedi to begin with.
I mean, the Seeing Stone as well, I think, is the one on what's the planet from Mandalorian where they pick up, where they put Grogu on the stone.
Oh yeah, I used to know all this stuff.
I forget what it is. It's been so long since I watched Mandalorian season 2, but I think that was also Tython. That's it. Thank you. I think that was also a type of Virgins, if I'm not mistaken. So I think so too. I think a Virgins is just like the word they use to describe a phenomena in the Force that they don't understand.
Something really powerful with the Force at that point, and that's what it is. So, yeah, that's pretty fun. Cool. All right, let's move on to our next bit. Seen a lot of action.
Hear a lot of carbon scoring here. Looks like you boys have seen a lot of action.
This is our favorite action bits of the week. I'll let you go in this one first.
There was a moment. There's some of the best action moments are ones that create tension. That doesn't even amount to anything. Like, think of all the samurai movies where you have the two Ronin holding their swords and they're just like, it's like the old feudal Japan version of when the gunslingers are about to pull their guns.
Right.
There was the moment where all the witches had their bows drawn, and then you had Torben, who was like about to draw his saber, and Sol goes, no. And then 2 seconds later, he does what he does. But there was that moment between the two of like, I get why. Again, it goes back to the Road to Hell is paved with good intentions. I get why they would have had their lightsabers drawn at that point, because they were fearful for their lives. They don't know what's going on. Are they about to get attacked by these witches? They're using this magic that they don't understand, and they got a whole bunch of witches with bows and arrows pointed at them.
Right.
Yeah, I would do the same. I would have my hand on my weapon at the exact same damn time.
Absolutely.
But just that moment of like, you don't know what the hell is about to happen. I was like, is Sol about to talk them down? Nope.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. A good point. For me, it was during, of course, the big battle we had. But I love specifically the Kelnaka and Torben part, where Kelnaka has Torben up against not Kelnaka, but I guess Coral Naka. I guess I should say Coral Naka.
Coral Naka. I like that.
Had Torben up against the wall. The face is already cut, and he goes to it also to see, like, you think that, like, you know, Torben lives because we've seen in the future, but like at the same time,
he's like holding the saber
down, just barely blocking it at this point. Defensive is all hell, like barely surviving. Like, good on you. One good thing Torben could do: defended himself from a Wookiee and didn't die.
Yeah.
I mean, for him, that's impressive. That's an impressive Jedi.
With the claws being dug into his face at the same time. I will say there was one moment that I thought was so sick, and apparently it was in the trailer. When Kelnaka swipes at Sol, and it was so like Wuxia movie style, like, and Sol just like flips over it, turns off his lightsaber, and then just lands. I was like, That's so like fearless, crouching tiger, hidden dragon, like all those like old school like wuxia movies.
Well, I said that like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon was definitely an influence on Leslie. She was saying for this
big
one.
time.
So, and yeah, you can absolutely tell it. Great battle sequences.
The wire work in this show has been phenomenal. Not just like the hand to hand and the sword play, but like the wire work that's been done. It's so good.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. Before getting to mission briefing, let's go to our next category. Laugh it up, fuzzball.
Laugh it up, fuzzball.
All right, not many humor points in this episode, I gotta say. It wasn't a very funny episode, for sure. I had one small moment that I chuckled at. That was during the, we saw Maze testing this time around, Maze testing the Force. And when Sol kind of looks at her and just goes, the image hasn't appeared yet. And it's like, and I heard like the Maze face is like, fuck. That's all I got. A little chuckle out of it. Nothing very belly laughing. Like no record moments for sure. Anything like that.
No.
What about you? Do you have anything specifically that made you chuckle?
Just Tobin getting the shit beat out of him.
Yeah, that made you chuckle, huh? All right, fair enough.
That was pretty funny.
You know what? Let's not get into it any further. Let's go right into the mission because we're gonna have to talk about Torben and a bunch of other stuff. Let's get into and we call it mission briefing because that's what it was for Bad Batch. We actually tried to call this one the Path. But I still call it mission briefing anyway.
I trained her. Let me be the one to bring her in.
This is more of the overall at this point. We're going to break down a bunch of this stuff now at this point. I think we got to talk about some of the characters in general. I almost feel like that's the best way to go about it. Like just talk about each character individually and their moments and what they did or didn't do. And let's start with Torben. Holy F, man. Holy F, man. You're telling me like, the character.
What a little pussy, dude.
Character's bad, but like I will say I am always very truthful. I'm very positive. I will take Leslie. I praise her a lot through this. Leslie through task for this. I feel like it's a missed opportunity when the reason why everything went down is because this little kid is homesick. This little Jedi is homesick and wants to go home. I want to go home. I want to do something meaningful, and that's what made this all happen. This guy's a little punk. This guy's a little punk bitch, and he needs to like go to the agricultural community or whatever. What is the I forget what they call it, AgriCorp. So when the Jedi's wash out, they can't make it. They go to the AgriCorp Jedi.
What you're saying is go to the AgriCorp and touch grass.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Absolutely, go touch grass, Torben. My God, I don't get him. I don't get him and at all in this part. I will also say before I'll let you speak about him for sure as well. There are some people after the episode who are like, well, I don't see what necessarily he did to want to kill himself like years later. As far as that went, I kind of understand that particular gripe. Like he did something bad, but it seems like in our mind it was going to be much worse considering what he ended up doing. But I will say this: I honestly feel like this is a jump that I made, and one of those jumps I'm comfortable making, even if I'm wrong. I'll be proven wrong. I kind of feel like once the witches got into his mind, and maybe the Guntakas as well, kind of left a stain there. And I think that kind of like, once you start down that dark path, forever it'll dominate your destiny. I think it's the same kind of thing. Like there's going to be a stain there that you can't cleanse. And that's why it led to, as much as he tried to move past it, it was always there kind of like inside. And it led to the point where he was tormenting himself. And I think I like that. It's my headcanon. And you can tell me I'm wrong, or maybe I shouldn't have to do that. Some people will say you shouldn't have to do that in a story. I don't mind doing it every once in a while like that a little bit because it's just enough to be to make that jump. The jump in the show, just enough in the show to make me make that jump. But yeah, not a fan of Torben. There's nothing about like. Not only does he just want to go home, but then he completely disregards Indara. Like completely disregards to go. I'm just gonna go. Like what? What's going on here, Torben? You're doing nothing right this entire episode, entire show. So go pound salt.
I think he's what we wanted Yord to be. Or another example of what Yord was supposed to be, of showing the folly and the fall of this generation of Jedi. He's the Gen Zer of the Jedi. Like,
right.
he just wants to stay at home and look at his tablet all day, and like he wants to stay at home and be on the internet all day.
Right.
That's what he wants to do. He doesn't want to like go out and do any kind of manual labor. Sorry, I know not all Gen Zers are this way. But you get what I'm saying. To any Gen Zers watching us, you know what I mean? It's like he just wants to sit at home, read his books, be on the internet all day, and his parent in this situation, Indara, said, no, you're going out into the wide world and you're doing some actual work.
Right.
Like I'm pulling you out of home. You're coming to work with me. This is your first job. You know, you're gonna be doing some tough grafts. And he was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go home.
Yeah.
And some people you can't force that life on. And he got taken over by Mother Anastasia, and she basically said she pulled I don't know if you've ever seen the show Lucifer, but she did the Lucifer of just like looking right into his eyes and said, tell me what it is you truly desire. That's what Lucifer's trick was the entire show. And yeah, I think it's just a manner of weakness, weak-minded. Because you look how many witches it took to control Kalnaka. Took all the witches. All the witches to control Kalnaka. And when that spell broke, they were like, oh. And they all just passed out.
Let me ask that. Like, we kind of all assumed they were dead, but were they dead?
They're passed out. No, yeah, I think that they've just put so much power into controlling Kalnaka that once that connection was severed, like through someone else, that they were just like, boom, and they passed out because the connection was severed. They weren't used. They essentially couldn't break through. But I question how the hell Torben became Master Torben.
Yeah, me too. Before I go any further, I just want to say the witches thing, it's an interesting angle because that means that leaves it open that some of them could have escaped and they didn't all die on Brendok. That could come into play in the last episode for sure because they're just passed out. I know the place blew up a few minutes later, but they could have, maybe one of them woke up and were able to sneak out, especially including Coral. So we could see Coral again, I think, for sure. But yes, going back to Torben, I don't know how he became a master either. How the hell does that guy become a master? I mean, that's probably the biggest, most egregious part of the show, except for the accountant Jedi that I've seen the entire.
That dude. Don't even remember his name, but fuck that dude. Here's how I can equate it, right?
Sorry, Ken. I know your team Mug. I know Ken Knapp's not your team Mug, but
is he really?
He at first said he loved it. He talked about it. He loved it. I was like, okay. Hey, that's what it is. Hey, we all are loved.
I'm not asking you to incriminate yourself here. Have you ever worked with a guy who's been like your superior or like seniority, and you just look at this guy and you wonder, how the fuck did you get this job?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have.
Like we've all had that guy, right? Where like you look at him and you're like, how the fuck did you get this job again?
Right. Not a clue. Exactly. Yes.
Like who did you pay? Whose ass did you kiss?
Whose pictures do you have blackmail? Whose pictures do you have that you can blackmail?
I mean, he's got a hell of an amount of blackmail.
Absolutely.
Indara, Sol, Kalnaka.
Pretty much. Yeah, that just wasn't. I mean, he was disappointing. I expected more from him. I expected more from his story. So I will say that's a strike for me against this episode and against Leslie. It just didn't ring true enough for me. It was kind of a little bit of a lame way to do it for me. But again, that's your miles may vary. And I apologize if you dug it. Great, love that you dug aspects of it. But anything more about Torben? Or should we move on to some of our other characters?
Just on your point there, do you think that that's maybe the intention here of continuing to show? And I'm going to talk about this more later. Of continuing to show the folly of the Jedi. Like having just a Weasley little turd like this.
Absolutely could be, but I personally feel there might have been a better way to do it. That's all. It has come across. There could have been a stronger way to do it. I think Yord was a better way to do it. Was a better way to do that.
We don't need Mog. We don't need Torben. We had Yord.
Right. Exactly. So I mean, it is what it is. That's all. Let's move on then to our next. I think let's talk about Sol.
You don't want to save Sol for last because I may get very, very upset with this conversation.
We can save Sol for last if you want.
Let's save Sol for last, I think, because I am going to get very upset with that conversation.
Let's talk about Mother Anastasia then.
Okay.
We talked about her a little bit already. I love her character throughout the entire episode, except for one thing which I didn't fully understand. And maybe you can help me out with this. And again, maybe more in the specificity of it. I loved her speech with the coven. I loved, like you said, the one you liked her line. I loved during her dying breath, where she told Sol that, like, I was going to let her go.
Oh.
And it's still like begging him to take care of her. And kind of in a way, like, it's like, wow, this guy just killed you, and you're still like, she's not, I was like, almost like not blaming him in a way. It's like, it was a weird, very cool emotional thing for me, and how it spoke of a strong character for her to do that. However, getting there's one little hiccup I have is, so she says things to Coven. Coral starts riling everybody up. She comes out and is like, yo, what's going on? And the Jedi come in and they start this conversation, and she starts the smoky thing first. What was she doing? Was she going to attack them? Or was she like, that kind of has, like, because it feels like, and this is what weakness in the story for me as far as I go, because we see the episode is showing that when the witches do the smoke thing here, they're taking over somebody's body or doing something like. So if she is on, she's on Osha's side, which is at this point the Jedi side.
Mm-hmm.
Why is she doing something which is going to provoke them in a way? It seemed a little off, it seemed a little weird, because that's what incited the whole thing. That's what made Sol attack, and wrongfully so. Although there's a part of me goes, well, he is kind of trying to defend himself, I think, a little bit potentially. Yeah. But like, it seemed a little off to me to have her do. If Coral had done it, and like he sliced after Coral or something and hit Anastasia, that might have been better for me, because it just looked like she was like, it's almost like your good character who you love is actually just pulling a gun on somebody. Like, it just seemed a little off kilter. If that makes sense.
I wonder if it is just the form that they take when they use their magic. And maybe the reason that the witches all had to, the other witches couldn't do it because they all had to like link hands to, I don't know, I'm completely spitballing here, but I wonder if it's just like a form they take when they are connecting deeper to the Force. You know how Obi-Wan just disappeared into his robes to become one with the Force? Maybe that's their way to connect to their magic. They have to transcend their mortal form, give up their mortal selves, their mortal form, to actually connect to the Force, connect to the thread, connect to this magic. That's the only thing I can really think of. Yeah. And it just, if we were on this stream right now and you just started, decorporealizing and becoming just random black smoke, I would think that something is going very wrong.
Right. Yeah, it's true.
So I don't think Sol is justified in what he did. But again, and this goes back to the whole thing, and we'll talk about this more later, of like, these are two people who are in a very emotionally heightened state. Mm-hmm. They're unaware of what is going on. They've never seen this power before. Right. All they know is there are two young children there, that look like they are potentially being abused and potentially sacrificed. Right. So they are doing what they, and I'm not saying this to justify it, but I also don't agree with everyone that's saying fuck all the Jedi.
Yeah, I don't either.
I think it's a justifiable reaction for them. Mm-hmm. But we're kind of getting off of Mother Anastasia here. I think that her being that sacrifice, that almost like martyr figure, mm-hmm. was needed for this show to really push home, the connection that May and Osha have with her, and how important that relationship to where they come from and their past is really important, because we saw May see the death happen. Osha has no idea. Osha still has no idea what really happened.
Yes, that's a big part of it. Absolutely.
And I think that's going to be such a crucial point when she does find out, that I think it was almost a necessary sacrifice to happen.
I mean, I'm looking at it now, like, it looks like OSHA or Anastasia starts turning the smoke after May comes talking about the fire. So it's quite possible she was going to protect OSHA. And that might be what's going on. Like maybe that
or stop the fire.
Right, exactly. And I gotta be honest with you, like this is unfortunately because of my life schedule this today and everything else. I did not get a chance to watch it a second time like I try to do usually before I do these shows. That actually makes sense more of that because I always have it playing in the background when I'm talking to you, and I was let's see, it sparks something. I just watched that moment again, like without sound, but it is like May comes and talks about the fire, and all of a sudden that's when she gets spoken. It almost looks like maybe she was going to save the day, and that actually to me goes back on Sol a little bit because that's a little more upsetting because all of a sudden Sol's like, well, we know the fire's in there, we know that to save the kids, and maybe she's going to do something to help, and he still kind of just swings at her because it's seed black magic, and I got to strike you down. I don't trust you. And maybe he should have trusted her more. Interesting to note, what I didn't notice last night, and maybe did you notice in your second time, she starts going into the smoke. The shot goes back to May, and it seems like May is starting to go to smoke.
No, I didn't notice that. I thought that was just like particles of Anastasia like drifting into the shot.
It could be, but it's like she's actually pretty far away from her. Far enough away that it almost seems. I'm just watching again. I mean, maybe that's all. Maybe that's all it's supposed to be. That she was starting to go that way. But it stops when Sol slices her down, because it only shows it for like a split second. It only shows it for a split second. So I don't know. But another interesting point too about that is I'm not sure how he slices her down if she's in that discorporeal form. I guess it's some kind of midway through, so it was just enough. But either way. It's interesting to me that this happened. I guess it can be explainable, and watching that again back, I understand it more the second time through. So I will let that go and say Anastasia was pretty much perfect in this episode then because of that. So I like Anastasia a lot. So anything more about Anastasia? Is there other stuff we should talk about? I have some other stuff before Sol. I have some other stuff we can talk about still. But
just how when Sol asked her how were they made, she still didn't give it up because she thought, why? What? Not that I don't think she was keeping it from a secret from the Jedi. I truly believe because of the reaction of like her being asked to choose between a leader and a mother. I genuinely think that it was a thing of like, it's none of your business. Like, these are my children. It doesn't, and I think it goes back to a point that I brought up a few episodes ago. It doesn't matter how they were made. It's not a slight on Anakin being the chosen one or that they're made via a virgins in the Force. However they were made, it was a case of, but why does it matter how these children were made? These children are a gift,
right,
from the Force. However they were made doesn't matter. But these are children. They're a gift to the Force, gift from the Force. So what concern is it to you? And I think there was a strong point, and we'll get on to talking about Endara. Endara raised the point of they're women and there's 50 of them in there. Yeah. I think if Endara had gone in there alone, she would have been able to relate to them a lot more. But because she had two grown men and a Wookiee behind her, she didn't really get that chance. And I feel like I could be reading way wrong into it, but I feel like that connection as a woman who, you know, has probably not been a mother, but like has raised children up as Padawan. She's had that experience of like bringing young people, you know, up in life, that maybe there was some kind of relation to their situation that could have been found there, some kind of like middle ground that could have been found, but she didn't get that chance.
Absolutely. All right, let's talk about Coral briefly then. Definitely, I mean, we saw the hints of the darkness with her throughout episode 3, obviously, but it went a little further in 7. We realized that she basically went beyond Anastasia. We didn't see this part. She amped May up a lot more. got her darker, to get down that path, to get mad, get angry, go. You want your daughter, you want to keep her here, stop her from coming. Basically telling her, you do whatever you have to do to stop her from coming. And she got really angry, trying to get everybody together. She made decisions without Anastasia. And then, of course, when after Anastasia is killed, she attacks Sol. This is part of the Sol discussion. But it's a heartbreaking moment. It's actually one of the best moments of the show for me. Was when Sol turned off his lightsaber and Coral starts basically attacking him, and all he does is defend, and he won't attack back. And she's like, "Fight me, fight me!" It's the kind of thing. It got really dark sided. It's actually the best, most noble moment from Sol. Comes after probably one of the worst, of course. It comes to the best. He's a Jedi. He's like has to fall back on being a Jedi. I'm not going to attack you. I made this mistake, and I know you are rightfully pissed off, and I'm just going to keep myself alive and not let you kill me. But I'm going to not attack you back, and except for when she has to like take care of the weapon with his lightsaber real brief at the end. It was a cool moment for sure. But really, Coral amped things up more than just as much as anybody. So it's kind of a strong moment there for her as well. Things could have been better if not for everybody. Pretty much everybody kind of
mistakes were made.
Yeah, mistakes were definitely made. Anything about Coral for you?
I really like the contrast of the more primal maternal instinct from Coral of, no, I'm going to protect my child no matter what.
Yeah.
Anastasia was a lot more like understanding and like, okay, I'm going to give you this wish. You want to go? I'm not happy about it, but I understand. Coral was more of that like primal, maternal, like, no, I'm going to protect my child from everything, everyone. I don't care if you're a Jedi. I don't care if you think you're doing good. You are not taking my child. And I want to bring this up of like, a lot of people I've seen are saying, the Jedi are just baby snatchers. To an extent, I see where they're coming from. Yeah. I really do.
Yeah.
But let's look into what we saw here today. They saw that these children have a family, and they chose to say, no, don't interfere. You've interfered enough as it is. They hadn't even done anything yet.
Right.
And the council told them, no, you've interfered enough. Leave them alone.
Yeah.
And Dara before that was saying, we should leave them alone. They have a family. Like, they have what was it she said? They have a family and a dangerous one at that. Like,
right. Yeah, absolutely. They're in depth. They want to, and you know, and Dara has that great line at the end where she's like, afterwards, she's like, because when Sol wants to turn himself into the council, like, you're going to do that. You just destroyed this girl's life. You just destroyed her dream. You destroy her family. You destroy everything about her. And now you're going to destroy her dream too. Like, I wanted her to stay with her family. Now So what's interesting about it to me is the fact that we are showcasing a difference in what has been the standard. You just mentioned it. We've all thought, oh, the Jedi are baby stealers, and that's kind of how the theme has been, because we haven't really seen them do it, especially in the TV shows. The only one we've really seen is Anakin, and that's actually been shown to be a case of Qui-Gon comes, takes Anakin away with Shmi's blessing. If Shmi didn't want him to go, would he have gone? I don't know. I don't think Qui-Gon would have made him go. I think there's more to that than the Jedi just swooping in, stealing babies, and leaving them dead of night. Here we have the council. We have Indara saying, no, we don't want them to go. They are with family. They are too old. This is not something we should be doing. And Sol, of course, which we're going to get to next, has this very intense feeling that the kids are in danger, et cetera. And he's not, I don't think he's necessarily completely off base. I understand where he's coming from to a degree, not to the degree that he does. But I love the fact that they're using this show to actually kind of combat that. And actually, as much as the Jedi are put to shame in this episode a little bit, the overall Jedi are actually shown in a better light. They're not baby snatchers, generally speaking. They actually take into account the situation, what's going on. Do they have the blessing of the family? Does the family want this for their child? And it's understandable, because a lot of children, especially from throughout the galaxy, this is actually a better life for their child, potentially, things like that. So there's a lot, definitely more to it. It's not as black and white as people would have to think. There's going to be some gray angles to it, some definitely multifaceted side of things. And I like the fact that we're going there in this one.
Yeah, and it's not to say that they haven't made that mistake in the past, and I think
Right.
that's what I'll get into this more later on. I think that's what this show is about. A lot of people are like, oh, fuck the entire Jedi Order because of this show. And I'm just like, no, it's just like, again, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. You can have like these practices, these flawed every religion has flawed ideals and flawed practices. That doesn't mean the intention behind them is any less pure than anything. And this is coming from someone who is a staunch atheist. There's a difference between faith and religion, the values that are placed upon something and the institution itself. I think this show is showing the flaws of the institution as opposed to the flaws of the people that are carrying out the values of that faith.
Right.
And I think mistakes were made. Unfortunately, they were tragic mistakes. And so we'll get into Sol, but Indara, I thought made the right call. It was weird to me hearing the High Council make the right call. I was pleasantly surprised at that.
No,
probably because Ki-Adi-Mundi's not on the council yet. I mean, yeah, let's just get into talk about Sol because we've been alluding to it and we've been like trying to.
Yeah, let's break this down with Sol.
I'm so disappointed, dude. I'm like, you know that you have that parent where you're like, I'm not even mad, I'm just disappointed.
Yeah. We kind of said it before initially, like he's kind of like, he's like very Qui-Gon-esque. He's a Qui-Gon type character. No, he's not. He is now. I will hold true to the point where like we see him in this light now. I think he's become much more of a Qui-Gon character now. But it is with great disappointment and great interesting journey for him to get there. Let's talk right from the beginning. So he has this, he seems like he's a good Jedi at heart. He has noble intentions throughout the entire episode, throughout the entire time. He's trying to help out Indara with the mission, not seeing Torben's whatever his bullshit, looking through his bullshit ever. He finds the girls and he is so immediately intensely like boom, hooked onto them. Some people actually call.
Well, there's an important point here. I would think that his point, how he is acting, is super creepy. But let's look at the context around how he found these twins. He saw that they had been there for 7 weeks, right? Look, they're studying this planet for a vergence in the Force, something that they have no idea what a vergence is. They have no idea what a vergence looks like. We don't know what a vergence is and what it looks like. So for them to not even know is kind of like, oh, well, what the hell is this thing? They've been there for 7 weeks. And then he runs across these children. And he's like, oh my God, there's life here. There's not just like plant life and animal life. There's like other sentient life forms here.
Right.
Let me stay back a bit. It's creepy as hell. Don't ever do that around children.
Right.
Don't ever do that around anyone, but especially children.
Right.
And then he follows them back to this weird amphitheater-like fortress that they're in. And what's the first thing he sees when he climbs in there? He sees them getting pushed back with the Force, and they're being yelled at, and they're being pushed to the ground with the Force by this being that they have no idea about. They don't even know what it is. They're no Jedi. So he's obviously going to be natural. Again, it's the intent behind his actions. Like, he sees these children that are potentially being abused by the Force, like these whatever they are to him, what we know is this Force cult. Essentially, they are using the Force to potentially abuse these children because all he sees is these children getting pushed back and laying on the floor crying. He doesn't know it's a training session.
He knows there's a ceremony coming up too. He finds out there's a ceremony coming up, and what does that mean to him? Sacrifice potentially.
Well, they asked, right? And Dara asked, and May even said, you sacrifice yourself for the covenant. And I'm sorry, you hear about children being sacrificed. Yeah, alarm bells are going to start ringing.
Like, they're not supposed to be being killed. That's not the idea there. But like at the same time, it's like, oh, but that's the way it sounds. That's the way it sounds to Jedi, for sure, especially to Sol, who's all in on that. And Sol, who has this connection with Osha, which is interesting. He had the connection with Osha, but not right from the beginning. And he focuses on her a lot. almost unhealthily.
It is very unhealthy. I think it's because what he saw at the start of Osha being the one to tell May, like, stop hurting the butterfly.
Right.
I wonder if he caught onto that and was like, huh, she's the one that has the connection more with, the more connection with the light side. I can do more with her, and
I can work with that.
I can work with that.
Yeah,
exactly. And you have Indara essentially saying, look, you're just jealous because I got a Padawan and you don't. That's what you want. That is what he wants. He's so much like Khmer in that.
They are mirrors. They are mirrors that way. Absolutely.
Exactly right. It's like he wants a pupil, and he sees Osha, and it's like it weirdly like creep. I'm just gonna say it is creepy as fuck. How obsessed he becomes with her, like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Indara actually is trying at first with the pupil thing. I think she's trying to tease him a bit. That's what I get out of that. I think she's trying different tactics to say, hey now, like, I want you to examine what's going on here. Is this for the good of her or just for the good of you? Obviously, he's had some issues with the Jedi. His upbringing, his training, and that's why he connects with her in a way. He connects with someone who's like, I had that. The children around me, I need that. I want to be able to help. I want, like, in a way, he's kind of like Torben in terms of he just wants to do something important. He wants to be important. He's doing it in a better way. He has a better idea of what that possibly could be, but unfortunately, he just attaches himself. Again, this is more of that attachment that's the issue, to a specific idea in his head. This is what I need to do, even if it's not the right decision to make. And Dara tries to guide him, but he won't listen because he gets so involved in it.
But, I mean, you have the moment, right, where Indara even says to him, like, don't confuse Torben's feelings with your own.
Right. Absolutely. He's all over the place, really. He's kind of a mess. He's kind of a hot mess at this point. He's really not in control. And he shouldn't be dealing with this because he can't. He can't be dealing with it because he's just not in the proper headspace to take care of things.
And I think where you mentioned before of how now he's become Qui-Gon, like the last episode we had, we slowly see him start to become unraveled again. He's got May tied down to the table. And he's like, you are going to sit here and you are going to listen to me. I think he's trying to improve upon himself by being the good teacher. He even said it himself in the first episode. Maybe I wasn't a good teacher. Maybe he wasn't a good teacher. And maybe he did have these like moments where he was trying to suppress it. But we see him at the end of the last episode. He's starting to unravel again. He has this problem where things aren't going the way he wanted them. And now he's starting to unravel again. He's starting to spiral. And we see that a lot in this episode, especially at the end, where he's holding the bridge up. And then he takes the decision upon himself to just say, nope. And then switches over and saves Osha and lets May fall. Like you let a child fall to their death.
Yeah, I will say it's obviously he's struggling, and I don't think he could save both. I think that's the idea. He wasn't strong enough. He was struggling very hard, and but he made that split second choice, which is the name of the episode. He had to make a choice, and of course, he chose the one he thought was the one he had a connection with. So it's kind of one of those really, it's a horrible situation. Like he either could save one or let them both die. So that's really a no-win situation at that point, unless there's a way he thought he can get them both off. I'm not sure why. Maybe this might be storytelling. Shouldn't he just have, instead of holding up the bridge, just taken them both?
Just push the bridge together or something.
Or brought them to him, kind of thing, in a way. I mean, I know he just went through a fight, so he's maybe not in his right state of mind as well. But either way, he is to blame for letting Meg. Not blame is a strong word, but he let May go and he let May die.
I would say he needs to take some action. He needs to take some responsibility for what he's done, and the fact that he was going to tell the council We don't know what he was going to tell the council at this point.
Right.
He could have got in front of the High Council and lied through his back teeth, because they were certainly willing to do that. He did it to Osha when she woke up. And it's really disappointing, because like, I came into this show fully expecting to see the Jedi flawed and somewhat breaking. I'm very well aware of that. This is that time period when they're starting the decline,
right?
And that we are slowly starting to see more and more of this. But I was like, dude, just give us one. Just give us one guy that is above all of that does things for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Not his own selfish reasons.
Right.
For the greater good. Because then what the hell is the point in the Jedi? What the hell is the point of the light versus the dark if they're all just going to be pieces of shit? I saw people saying just like, oh, all the Jedi are beat cops. I'm like, no, because then you could just say, oh, the Jedi are just researchers. Oh, the Jedi are just the Knights of Templar. Oh, the Jedi are just this. No, they are multitudes of different things. This is just like, this show is shining a spotlight on one specific part of their folly. And it seems to have magnified it for everyone. And now everyone's just like, oh, the Jedi fucking suck. And let me say this outright. A lot of them do. Yeah. A lot of the more modern Jedi, I mean, go back to the High Republic. Vernestra was awesome. Elzar Mann, Avar Chris especially. Like, we're gone from that time now.
Right.
But there's just that little one part of me that's like agreeing with Joseph Scrimshaw and like, give us justice for the Jedi. Just one guy.
Well, you know what? To be fair, I think Indara showed that in a way. Because we were expecting Indara, the worst out of Indara, and we got the best out of her overall.
But then the end, when she says, we'll tell the council the truth. May started the fire, and I was just like, you're going to blame it on a dead child?
With the best intentions, though. It's to save Osha at this point. May can't be saved. In her mind, May can't be saved. May did start the fire. So it's not exactly a non-truth. It's a truthful statement. All they're doing is they're leaving out Sol's part of it because she needs Sol, because Osha needs Sol.
I question that, though, because the Jedi never saw May start the fire. So
I thought she said, or no, Osha could have told.
No, Osha was passed out. So how did they know that it was May? They didn't, because they were with the witches in the courtyard. So there's no way they could have possibly known.
And we're sure. Maybe. I guess that's true.
Because they were with the witches, and Indara was in the ship.
Right.
So how could they have seen May start the fire from outside the bedroom door?
Oh, maybe that's what Sol told Indara later.
He wasn't there. He was in the courtyard with the witches.
I know, but wasn't there a line of dialogue between Osha and May on the bridge also, though? Where she said something about, like, when they're on the bridge together, they're yelling at each other about, and I think she said something about starting a fire. I could be wrong, but
Osha was passed out.
No. I'm saying before Sol saved them, Osha and May were on the bridge and they're yelling at each other, and I think Osha said something to May about that Sol might have overheard about the fire. I could be wrong.
I don't think so, but regardless, it wasn't Sol that came up with the alibi. Right,
but Sol would tell Indara, what happened? May started this fire and all this other stuff. This is what happened. As best I know.
I don't know. It seemed like a split-second decision that Indara made, that she was like, we're going to tell the council the truth, that May started the fire. And I was just like, are you serious? Like, tell them what really happened. You went there, you interfered, you overreacted, and now there's, for all we know, countless casualties.
Yeah.
And you've like for all we know, those two were supposed to. It's the thing between destiny and choice, right? That's why these were paired. Maybe those two kids were destined to die in the fire. Maybe they were dead because the reactor looked like it was going to explode the whole time.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe they were destined to die in the explosion. Who knows?
Yeah, it's possible. It's absolutely possible. You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all. Yes, but I still think so. Your point is fair. It is fair. Justice of the Jedi is an important thing to look for, and that's not here very much. I was trying to showcase a little bit, but there is some problems with even the best of Indara's actions and everything to that effect. That's a tough place for Sol to be in, and I feel bad for him. I'm disappointed, but I feel bad for him as well. He's doing the best what he thinks is the best that he can, but unfortunately, in possible situations, I don't know what the choice is that he could have made that would have made that better. Like, I mean, it was already too late by the time we got there, really. He's forcing the hand. Although, at the same time, what would they have done? What would he have done if Torben hadn't have jumped into action? If Torben had sped off, would he have sped off or would he have listened to Indara? I think he would have listened to Indara. He would have been grumpy about it, but he would listen to Indara.
Yeah, I think so. We're all blaming, and we are rightfully blaming this on Torben because Torben jumped the gun, and I think that Sol was very much like he was starting to listen to Indara, but then Torben went off, and he was just like, "Yeah, I've got to go find these virgins. Like
so I can go home."
He was looking for the excuse to go and get Osha. Like he wanted that excuse. He wanted any excuse, and as soon as he was told, "Go save the twins," because after he kills Anasea, you hear Indara say, "Go save the twins," and he rushes in.
Right.
I think he was looking for that reason to go and get Osha. Yeah.
You're right. So yeah, at the end of the day, we're disappointed in Sol.
I'm gutted, dude. I really thought he was going to be the guy.
It's all going to depend on what he could redeem himself in the last episode for sure. That's the thing. I don't know. We'll find out. I don't know if he will either, but I'm kind of hoping for it because I think redemption is a big part of Star Wars. So give me a little bit of redemption. I think not to go too far into Force Vision, but I do think he's not going to make it out. I think he's going to definitely have to sacrifice himself to save somebody. Perhaps May this time. Could be, but we'll talk about that more when we get to Force Vision. So let's do parsecs first, and then we'll get into that whole thing since we're there. Next segment is parsecs.
It's the ship that made the Kessel run in less than 12 parsecs.
It's less than 12. It's 11 because we always scale things on a rank of 1 to 11 here on PLD Projects. We always turn it up to 11 here. What do you rank this episode out of 11 there, Matty?
I give this a solid 8 for subverting all of my, not even subverting my expectations. I thought Sol would be guilty, but guilty by association.
Yep.
Not the direct party involved. So it goes back to what Leslie Headland's MO, right? If she's going to do what we think she's going to do, but she's going to do it so brutally and without remorse that she's like, yeah, you're going to find out that Sol did something. You're not going to know that. You're not going to wait to find out that he essentially killed a child.
Right. Yeah. Fair. For me, I'm going to go 7.5 out of 11. Similar reasons, basically. I will throw out a few more things in there. I did love the music this week. I thought the composer, I forget his name. I'm sorry, I forget his name. But he does a wonderful job with the score. We had another Kylo Ren motif at one point. I noticed that. Beautifully done, beautifully weaved in. The music was epic at points, and just great Star Wars music. I do wish they would use some of the old quotes a little bit more in this episode, or in this series, I should say. The series, you could use a little more connectivity that way, a little Force theme every once in a while, something like that. But I will say, sure, shoot your shot, do things for good thing for trying, I guess. And I know some people love it. Don't ever let me hear that lyrical stuff at the end of Star Wars again.
You and me disagree so much on this.
You disagree? I just thought it was not Star Wars like that. Just I don't mind the song. I mean, I don't really like the song, to be honest with you. It's not my jam.
I think it's a good song.
It's fine. It's fine. But I just don't like it at the end of
That's not your type of music. You're not into you're not into R&B music and
correct.
Yeah, so it's not for you. I personally I like it, and I'm all for more original songs in Star Wars. And I'm just gonna say this right now. Some of you friends out there of ours have the hookup for Lucasfilm.
No offense, Matty. I don't even want you on there because I just don't want
any
of the lyrics.
Hey, I'm not saying that I sing. I'm not saying I sing on it, but I could write something.
Oh, that's always well done. I'm always open to that. For me, it's just Star Wars is such a classical theme thing, and like when you start doing other stuff. I mean, yes, I know there's Jedi rocks. Yes, I know there's the stuff that was in Maz Kanata's castle and stuff. That was kind of like in universe. That was like in universe kind of thing, which is fine. Like I don't even love the guitar when it happens in Rebels when Zeb is listening to the boombox and the guitar is playing. I don't even like that, to be honest. I think it's a little much. So Visions was okay. The Visions band, I guess, was okay because that was kind of like an whole universe kind of thing.
Weaver.
But as far as like credits go and things like that,
it should have been in the finale. I think. I think that the episode placement for it was wrong. I think that's to do like a song that was written for this show. You do it at the end of the finale.
I don't like the thing is I don't even mind the idea of writing a song for a show like this in a way. Make it be a companion piece or something though. Like say it's like we wrote this or inspired by the show.
Music inspired by.
Right. That's kind of thing. Yeah. And I'd be okay with that. I just don't like it actually. I mean, I know it was just during the credits, so I can skip it anyway. But that just did throw me off. I mean, right now I completely understand when somebody wants to say I'm an old man yelling at clouds, and that's fine. I get it.
Yeah, a little bit.
I am. I could absolutely be.
And a little bit.
I will admit that. Too, but it just didn't sit with me right. But oh well, let's leave it there. 7.5 out of 11. Let's get into our final segment before we wrap things up. We're going a little long today. Good thing we didn't have any news to discuss.
And this is a theme-rich episode. So
absolutely. Force Vision time.
Premonitions.
This is where we talk about our visions of the future, whether it be this show or whether it be later on in other shows or whatever. What is your Force vision about this week, Matty?
I think Sol is going to be used as not a martyr, but the killing without a weapon, right? Killing the dream. I think Sol is going to be the example that's made, or to like the wider galaxy, or to like Joe public of, hey, this is what these Jedi did. Like,
right.
I think it is going to come to light what happened. I think we are going to see the Jedi Order have to put a bit of a spin on it, maybe because they are so like tied into the Republic, tied into the government, that they could be like, hey, help us put a spin on this, help us cover this up. But I think that Sol is going to be the one, tragically, because I do think in the end, I think he is going to do what's right. I think he is going to have that, because like it or not, redemption is a part of Star Wars. I don't think Khmer is going to be redeemed. I don't think I think we're gone beyond Venestra being any kind of Sith Lord at this point.
I think so too.
In one episode, there's just not enough time.
Right.
There really isn't. And I think, I like that, because we're focusing on this story at hand, which is what they always said this was going to be. They said this isn't going to, like, Leslie hadn't even said, she said this show is not going to end on a cliffhanger.
Right.
So we know I think it's going to be Sol, like you said, I agree. I think Sol's going to try to save May. But I think what they did on Brendok, I think it's going to come to light.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to do it. I think that's a good summation of what's probably going to happen to a degree. I will also say I agree. I think Sol's going to die. I do think he's got to. I think he's got to redeem himself in a way. And at the same time, Khmer, I think we got to somehow Khmer's got to be in the background. By the way, Matty Jacinto less Acolyte, so that definitely gave a point or two less for me this episode for sure. I know we just got the best of Khmer, and all of a sudden, now he's not there at all. What the
now
hell?
You say that, I'm thinking of knocking it down to a 5.
I know, my God. You can't introduce us the character. Can't give us the episode last week with the Sith Lord, and all of a sudden he's not there. I mean, one more episode.
Sith, Lord.
I'm interested to say what he's going to play. I think there's an idea still. There's still a possibility that Coral is a Sith potentially at this point, or Troy. Potentially she might have lived. Like I mentioned, they all got wiped out, not dead. So maybe she escaped potentially. You know what I don't like about the show? Another negative that I kind of wanted to bring up earlier, and it's related, I guess, in a way. We are going to get more flashback next week, or we're just never going to find out how May lived. We just don't know how May lived. May should have died, and I feel like that's the thing I'm talking about too. Is I feel like that's important, considering Sol left her to die. How did she make it through?
I think maybe again, that's a good point. We probably will get a little something, but
don't have a lot of time.
I feel like Coral saved her.
You feel Coral saved her? Maybe that's where Khmer was. Maybe Khmer did save her somehow. Maybe he was there all along or something. We don't. So I was almost surprised. I almost expected to see him this episode, somewhere in the background or somehow. I don't know exactly how that would have worked, but it just feels
Thank you for teeing me up.
Okay.
What if Coral tried to do the same as what Anasea did, creating the twins? She just never split him. So maybe Khmer is a product of their magic. They just never split him into two.
That's an interesting idea.
So he's more whole. The darkness in him is more whole.
I mean, she did say he was a Jedi at one point, though, so it's kind of feel like
he's also an untrustworthy narrator. And also, we've seen how Coral can be when she's teaching those kids.
Yeah.
She's pretty rough.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So who's to say those scars on his back didn't come from Coral?
You're not wrong. That's a possibility, I guess. But either way, I do wish we'd seen that. I'm kind of hoping. I almost don't want to see it now, though, if only because I don't think we have enough time. No. If we had 2 or 3 episodes left, I would like to see it. But with 1 episode left, we got a lot to get through in order to make it work. So I don't think we're going to see it, unfortunately. What else? I do think we will see Osha and May. I don't know if they're going to live. I do think Sol's going to die saving May. I think it's going to be like the what he should have done a long time ago kind of thing. And maybe even Osha gets sacrificed because of it in a way. Kind of like turnabout is a fair play, so to speak. I do think we're going to see Indara. I think we're going to see Vernestra come in at the tail end, and there's going to be nothing about the Sith are going to be there. I think Vernestra's going to show up. Almost everybody's going to be dead or gone, and she's going to have to report something to the council, and she's going to have to make something up. I kind of feel like that's what's going to be the case. It's going to happen. Like she's going to get there, nothing's going to be there. Like, well, dead end. I don't really know what happened, but
what if she shows up? Khmer is the only one left, and he goes back to that character. Like she shows up, and he's like Tim Robinson in the hot dog outfit of like, we gotta find out who did this. When really he's the one that killed everyone. Right. Vernestra shows up and he goes back to that like bumbling character, and he's just like, I don't know how this happened. We got to find out who did this.
Right.
And
possibly
sneaks away, and that'd be the last. Oh, dude, what if that's the last shot of like Khmer like sneaking away with Vernestra?
That'd be interesting. A lot of stuff to happen next week, but we have 1 episode left. I can't wait for it. I'm excited to see where this finale is going to go. Hopefully, a lot of our answers or questions are answered, enough of them to be satisfied. Because who knows if we're going to get a season 2? Who knows? I don't know. You don't know.
I think we are. I think we're going to get a season 2 at least.
I think it's possible. It's possible for sure. But I guess we will find out sooner than later, I'm hoping. But yeah, I guess that's it. Matty, where else can the folks find you?
You can find me down here, audio listeners, at Matty Mourner on all social media. You can find my band Mourner at Mourner, Mourner, Mourner Band. You find me here every Wednesday for Holy Snokes. And well, Paul, I'm going to let you tell people where they can find you, but also talk about what we got coming up.
We do, yes. You can find me at PLD on Twitter. You can find me all over this channel. There's not going to be a review this week. We were scheduled to do a review. I just was up at a lake this weekend and couldn't make it back down in time for the show. Scheduling difficulties came to play. So we're going to push review back 2 weeks. But we will do 2 weeks in a row at that point to make up for it. Red Lego and I will be into the third and fourth episodes of the 2009 V reboot at this point. We are also a little bit on hiatus for 2 Mediocre Dudes on Film. That's going to come back in August. Me and PJ, of course, are going to start into John Wick and into Nightmare on Elm Street. Queen Podcast going strong this week, Friday. Crown Jewels on the other YouTube channel and on the audio feed for Crown Jewels. We're talking about Dragon Attack, which is a very underrated Queen track, in my opinion. One of my favorite Queen tracks.
Sorry, which one?
In my opinion, Dragon Attack.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Great bass riff, great guitar riff. It's filthy. It's crunchy. I love it.
I gotta
love
say,
it so much.
I love Brian. Unk. I hate his guitar tone sometimes.
Do you? Oh, well, okay. That's fair. That's not something I usually hear. But.
A lot of the stuff, some of it, I'm just like, I can tell. I know why, because of like when he came up with it, he was kind of limited on the kind of amps and stuff that he could use. It was very early days, but sometimes I listen to it. I'm like, God, please re-record these one day.
I think he likes the orchestration. That's what it is. It's a definitely more clean feel than it's if you don't like it, you don't like it, but it's a clean feel.
Sometimes I want it like a song like Headlong. I'm like, give it some real fucking dirty distortion.
Yeah, Brian's not very much big on the distortion, honestly, all the time. It is Dragon Attack's is a good one for that, though. He does get into a little bit for that. So but yeah, we got that one coming up, and the one episode after that will be Another One Bites the Dust. Obviously a big song there. That one actually might take me 2 weeks because there's a lot of versions to listen to.
Yeah, there's a lot of covers too.
A lot of stuff to go through. A lot of big history there. I don't know if I have a time enough to do it in 1 week. So that one might be a 2-weeker as well. But yeah, we got one other thing I should discuss for sure. We kind of talking about it, teasing it for a little bit. We are actually going to be recording it this week. Finally, it's going to be a new podcast here on PLD Projects because, quite frankly, I don't have enough. I don't have enough. I have enough podcasts I'm doing. I have so much free time. I have so much free time in my hands. But I decided to put forth a new monthly podcast that'll let me do this when I want to, when I need to. It'll be scheduled very loosely. It's not going to be every first month. It'll be whenever I get to do it. It'll be once a month, though, for sure. You look out to it. I'm going to be calling it the One-Offs. The One-Offs. And it's partially inspired by this one over here, actually. Matty is going to be on our first episode with me. This is a show where I'm going to be talking with a guest about something that is close to their heart, something that they're obsessed with, or something that they really, really love, that I can at least hold a conversation with. I gotta understand it. So I'm not gonna have somebody come in and talk about the Real Housewives of whatever because I don't watch the show and I can't stand up in that conversation. But if it's something
we'll tee it up because I'm not the guest. I'm just the
you are one of the guests. Yes, you are one of my guests.
I wouldn't even say I'm the guest. I'm like the middle part between the two. I'm like the buffer between the two of you because I actually have some like cultural references to what we're going to be talking about. But
the very first episode, the One-Offs, recording tomorrow and will be out before the end of the month. I believe we're going to debut it on the 30th of July. The One-Offs featuring myself, Matt Gunner, and Ken Knapsack, and we're going to be discussing one of Ken Knapsack's favorite bands of all time, Oasis.
I talk it. I love it.
And that's because Mr. Gunner over here took a walk through Manchester to kind of inspire the conversation.
I did. And
if you want to hear more about that story, you'll come to the One-Offs because I'm sure we're going to tell it there. It's going to be a fun podcast. I have some other interesting guests potentially lined up. I'll even kind of soft announce it now. Myself and Mark Ellis can be discussing Van Halen at some point. Me and Brad Gilmore and trying to get PJ involved, though maybe he doesn't know that yet. Doing a Back to the Future episode. Got some other ideas I've tossed about. Maybe I might be doing a crossover with the Montyverse. Potentially talking about Batman and Robin, potentially Dick Grayson, Nightwing, that kind of thing. I don't know. We got a lot of potentials out there, a lot of potentials to talk about. It should be a grand old time and a lot of fun to have.
When is I know you did the Harris dance. When is who would be the guest that you would have on to talk about Ed Harris?
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good question. It's a very good question. I don't know if there's anybody out there. I don't know if there's anybody out there who could handle the kind of the conversation with me. To be honest with you,
but you would be the guest.
Yes, I'll be interviewing myself. That's how it's going to go.
We'll do that then. We'll do that. You be the guest. I'll be the host for that episode, and we'll talk about Ed Harris.
That's what we'll do. That's what we'll do.
You know, all right, Jarvie
can handle it definitely for sure. Jarvie loves Ed Harris as well. So, all right, that'll do it, guys. Again, hit that like, subscribe, all that good stuff. I'm not going to say it anymore. Much love to you guys. We will see you next week for the finale of the Acolyte. And then we'll talk about whatever we're going to do after that, because I have no idea what we're doing after that. So Skeleton Crew comes out. We'll figure it out together, I guess. But that's next time. As always,
may the Force be with you. Always.